Sometimes you can plan and plan and plan, and you know exactly what you're going to talk about, and then literally 30 seconds before the show comes word that Myles Garrett has requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. This according to Ian Rapoport. Do I have that? I want to make sure I get the right attribution.
Yep. Yeah, Ian Rapoport tweeted it out. Myles just sent out the statement. Steve's going to have this in Tagboard here in 1 second. Steve, if you want to take Tagboard full, please. This is from Ian Rapoport as of literally 1 minute ago. Breaking reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year and Brown star Myles Garrett has requested a trade.
Wow.
Exclusive statement, and I quote from Myles Garrett. As a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl, and that goal fuels me today more than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man that I am today. While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton, and it has always been to compete and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns.
And he's done it in the most public manner possible, which is what stands out to me. Jason, what stands out to you? G, what stands out to you?
First thing that stood out to me was he put right in a statement something Andrew Berry said. Andrew said he's going from Cleveland to Canton. And Myles said, nope, that was never my intent to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete and win a Super Bowl. And the Browns, in all of their time with Myles Garrett, have not come close to doing that.
Are you surprised he did it this publicly?
No.
Wow.
No, I'm not.
I mean, that to me, that sounds like irrevocable differences, whatever. How you?
Yeah, irreparable.
This can't be saved. He's publicly asked for a divorce.
G's talked about it. I've talked about it. There's no sense hiding it now. He was going to sit down with me 2 years ago and talk about how unhappy he was. The first year of the Deshaun trade, when the suspension was increased to 11 games, he was really aggravated with where things were at. And we were going to have a conversation about it. He pulled it the last minute and said, no, we're not going to do it. And I was like, okay. And Garrett's mentioned at multiple turns that he wasn't going to spend his career riding away. He wasn't going to be a next Joe Thomas. And, you hope that they could figure this out. They could have turned the corner with Deshaun. It didn't happen. And the franchise is in a really rough spot right now. There's no getting around that with the lack of first-round picks they've had over the last couple of years. Obviously, the Deshaun thing's been a disaster. There's holes up and down the roster. They're in a tough spot. And with no clear, great quarterback available in this draft to them, I can't sit here and say that I'm surprised. He's hinted at this. He hinted at this all season long toward the end of the season. How can anyone be shocked today? I'm not.
I think the thing that now makes perfect sense, but was a bit of a smokescreen, was when he said we're not that far away and expect an announcement soon. Well, one of two things happened. Either he was filled in on the Browns' plans to get out of this hole and he wasn't satisfied with it, or when he said expect an announcement soon, he already had made up his mind and he knew he was going to publicly ask for a trade before the draft. G, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've done multiple blogs about this. I mean, you can go back, and I dated this back to all the way last year, a couple of years before. And, I said, look, man, y'all got to realize something. Be careful what you wish for. A lot of people at the time was like, yeah, listen, we're losing these games. And I said, losing has consequences. And when you are playing and when you see your mortality in front of you, and when you are a player of Myles Garrett's caliber, it looks like he's by some publications going to be Defensive Player of the Year again. It just shows that, look, guys want to win football games. And this is the problem that a lot of people have seen with the Cleveland Browns organization, is the fact that, they're always resetting. Always another 3 to 5 year plan, always another, and you could go back all the way back to 2000. There's always this thing, do we have a quarterback? Don't we have a quarterback? Is it the head coach or the GM? We got to switch this out, swap this out. The culture is getting better. It don't take you 25, 30 years to build a culture, man. And if you're Myles Garrett, you look around the league and you watch teams go from worst to first every single year. You watch other teams seem to be able to put it together, and yet and still the Cleveland Browns at this late stage in his career went 3 and something. That's crazy. And so, what I would like to caution people is to do is, like, when you hear this, don't jump up and down and be like, wow, we get these picks. That's not what you're supposed to be rejoicing about. And I love Abdul Carter, but please save the tweets online about how Abdul Carter will come in and do just as good as Myles
Well, there's
Garrett.
no use getting Abdul Carter now. He's a piece. He's not the centerpiece.
Yeah, when you lose a generational player, it takes you 3 to 4 years to figure out what the heck are we going to do now. And sometimes you never recover from it. Sometimes people still struggle with it. So for me, I knew this was coming. It was a thing that was always something that was always in the ether. Like I said, I don't even have many sources, but I said 2 years ago, I was like, I know from a very good source he's not going to be Joe Thomas. So this is not the party train that you guys are going to want to hear.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I'm surprised it took this long, number one. Number two, if you compare the personalities of Joe Thomas and Myles Garrett, and this is not to disparage in any way the personality of Joe Thomas was a guy that never publicly prioritized winning a Super Bowl as one of his big things. He did his job. He went out and dominated his man just about every snap that he played in the NFL. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. But I always got the sense from watching, listening, and observing Myles Garrett both on the field and off that was not going to be him. He did not want to spend his career chasing greatness as a team while achieving it individually and one day ending up in Canton but never getting any sort of team accolades. Now comes the question, what the Browns do from here. We've discussed on this show, because we've known that this has been a possibility for a long time. I'll ask you guys, what's the asking price?
Well, hold up. Before we get to that, I want to ask you guys this real quick. Andrew Berry said last week, and Jay, this is where you went on your Abdul Carter number 2.
Yes.
What you thought it meant. He said, I'm not going to entertain any trade offers from Myles Garrett.
Yes, he did.
We're not trading him. Now, obviously, Myles has now changed the course of the direction of this conversation by making the request. But, Jason, just because he makes a request, does Andrew Berry have to trade him to the Browns, have to trade Myles Garrett? Or
No.
is this a power struggle that, just because he asked out?
I think
could
they'd be
just
stupid
resolved?
not to at this point.
You don't have to trade him.
No, you do not have to trade him.
You need to.
But what comes next is he says, well, I'm not playing.
Well, he could. I mean, what comes next is you sit down and you have another conversation with him and his agents and.
Explain your plan, maybe?
Well, I mean, you try and throw a lot of zeros in front of him and see if that changes his mind.
Yeah.
And
I think he looks foolish now if he does change his mind.
he's got. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that he's going to change his mind. He's got, 2 years left, right? I think he's got 2 years left under control.
And I thought when Berry said he wasn't going to trade him, that signified, hey, an extension's coming. We talked about, will he be the highest paid non-quarterback in football? Mm-hmm. And I guess maybe those conversations didn't go that well either.
The reality is you're 53-78 with Myles Garrett on the roster.
Exactly.
And Garrett's right. He's a generational player. He will probably go down as the greatest pass rusher maybe ever. But he's not a quarterback, and you haven't won with him.
You're right.
So you have to. I wrote about it right toward the end of the season that you have to explore this, because if nothing else, it gives you the ammo. It's not necessarily using the draft picks to add talent to the roster. It's using the draft picks to put you in position to try yet again to swing at quarterback. And yeah, you can take a quarterback at 2 this year. Everybody's telling you these quarterbacks aren't very good. Are they wrong? Maybe. Maybe they're wrong. Lamar Jackson went at the bottom of the first round. A lot of teams passed on him. Maybe they're wrong, and Shedeur Sanders is the answer. But if you like the quarterbacks in next year's draft better than you do this year's draft, trading Myles Garrett now gives you the ammunition to move up and down the board in 2026, when at this point, again, it's all the risk. Everything about this is a risk. Yeah, but the quarterback class looks better next year than it does this year. You get Abdul Carter at 2 this year. You stay right there. You get the edge rusher to replace Myles Garrett, and you have the draft capital next year to move up and down the board and go get a quarterback in 26. I believe this is a multi-year rebuild of the Browns. Like, once the Deshaun Watson thing flamed out, it became a complete teardown and overhaul of the rest of the roster. And I think Myles Garrett just told you the same thing today.
And I think this is, I like your point about it goes back to the Deshaun Watson trade. I do think that Myles was convinced, because I do think if he said he was willing to sit down with you and talk about his future, that tells me he was already thinking about it at that time, and perhaps he was already judging that trade as not being the magic bullet they needed. So for me, this is just more collateral damage of the worst transaction in sports history. I think losing Myles Garrett now can be in the loss column from making this trade.
Could be, yeah.
And that is the danger of, and I know the theory was you can't win without a quarterback. You have to have a quarterback. They went so all in on getting that quarterback that ended up not being the answer. It's punitive in so many ways. The player they got flamed out. Everything they gave up is set them back 3 to 5 years. Later in the show, we're going to do a topic on, are the Browns the worst position franchise in the NFL right now? Because this is coming off a podcast that ranked them and ranked the Browns dead last in terms of positioning for the future. And I have maintained if they're not dead last, they are indisputably in the conversation for the bottom 3 in the league.
Well, let's talk about this. When Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry came here, right? When they got here, they were positioned great. They had a quarterback. They had Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in the game. They had Myles Garrett, one of the great pass rushers in the game. They had Denzel Ward, right? And in 5 years, you don't have none of that no more.
Now, G, you're right. And that's why I've always said we'll never know the answer to this question. But in the answer lies the path out of this. Who is most responsible for number 4? Was it owner going to GM saying make this happen? Was it GM going to owner? And that matters, G, because if it was GM convincing the owner, GM has to go.
But what we got to also understand, you can't talk about 4 until you get to 6. Who made the decision on Baker Mayfield that he was not good enough to play, and they moved on from him? Because that's the starting point.
Well, I agree with you. You're right, because that is the impetus to going out to getting Deshaun Watson.
That's the catalyst for going to get Deshaun
you're right.
Watson.
Now, I remember Kevin Stefanski made a comment after the trade was made that he felt he could have won with Baker Mayfield. So based on that information, I certainly don't think Kevin was beating anybody's door down. We got to get 6 out of here. He's not the answer. Someone in the organization made the assessment that you just talked about. Somebody said, we need 4 because 6 isn't the guy. And what we don't know, but they do know it inside the doors at Berea, what the fans and the media don't fully understand, that I think we need to understand how this played out before we can have a grasp of how you fix this mess. I really think it's important to find out who was driving the train on running 6 out of town and who was driving the train bringing 4 to town.
I don't want to relitigate this whole thing.
I know you don't, but Jason, I think ultimately that's...
This is important to understand. Baker stopped taking their calls. This relationship had eroded so badly.
Can I ask you a question? Didn't that come after the rumor came that they were talking to Deshaun Watson? Because in my timeline it did.
No, it came after he hurt his shoulder, and they told him he didn't have a very good year, and he basically told them, well, screw you. I shouldn't have been out there playing anyway. And he sent Jimmy Haslam's calls to voicemail. He would not return Kevin Stefanski's calls. When the quarterback stops talking to you...
You're right. No, you're right. That's a sign that he wants to go.
So, and that's why, once you go down this rabbit hole, it's impossible to get out of it, because there's a lot. I believe there's fault on both sides of this. I've always thought that, and I never thought
usually is.
I never thought Baker was good enough, and I'm not going to run from that now. I still don't think he's good enough.
Yeah,
I still don't think he's good enough.
I know you don't. I know you have said that.
So that's why it's the most important position in all of sports, and they looked at it and said, here's an opportunity to get a once-in-a-generation talent. These guys never become available. We're going to go for it. Who ultimately was the decision maker? You're never, like I've told you everything that I know. Barry was on board first in Philly, and Jimmy's the one that wanted to guarantee the whole thing. That's what I know to be true. And at some point, I think Barry wanted to stop pushing in that direction, and Jimmy said, we're all in now. We're going to keep going. But all of that has led us to the more important part of where we are today.
Yeah, and my thing not a good place.
And my thing is, when Myles Garrett met with Andrew Berry, what about his plan? What about his plan turned him into I'm going to write that note now.
Yeah.
Can we get anything read for the tea leaves? Okay, Did he tell him, hey, we're not drafting a quarterback in this draft high?
I don't know.
Did he say, hey, look, we're just going to draft a defensive player? Or maybe they did say, we're going to draft the quarterback, and he's just like, but those guys aren't good. I'd be interested to see what the heck they told him, because it does seem like there's some timing that says, all right, I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to give you enough time between now and the draft to figure out a deal, to get with the most you can. Because he could have dropped this
After the draft.
And you've
He
been
could have done this
screwed.
whenever
Well,
he
oh
wanted.
yeah, it would have killed the. Well, then the Browns likely would have not traded him. They don't have to.
Right.
To your point, Garrett, earlier, what he's about to do, and if the tea leaves are correct, this is what's going to happen Thursday night. Is that when the awards show is? Thursday?
It's typically
NFL awards, NFL honors? I think it's Thursday night. Irregardless, he's likely to repeat as the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and I say that because the Sporting News has already named him their Defensive Player of the Year, and more often than
It is
not,
Thursday.
the
Correct.
AP awards mirror the Sporting News awards. So if you think about what he's on the precipice of doing, he's about to win back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards, and that's impressive enough because it's something that typically does not happen on either side of the ball. What's mind-blowing to me and makes this even more, I guess it's good for the Browns now because it's on his resume. He did it with a 3-win football team, which I thought, Jason, automatically ended any campaign he might have for becoming Player of the Year.
Last year when we sat here and had this discussion, everybody eliminated Max Crosby
I know they
because he
did.
played on a bad team.
Yeah.
And now if Myles wins it, it's the exact same parameters.
Which tells you how much better he has to be than everybody else.
And it feels like there's no slam dunk great candidate.
the Vegas odds don't. I mean, Miles is a plus 1,000 to win, or last check. So
Yeah.
they have Surtain as the favorite for what it's worth.
I know, but I'm saying that when the Sporting News last week announced their winner, and historically, the Sporting News winner is a precursor to who wins the AP award.
I think PFF said that he would. I don't know if they got an award or something, or he was just the highest rated defensive player or something like that. Which may play a part in it and may not. I just think, this is the most intriguing part of this is Myles Garrett is, from my recollection, he's going to be one of the most sought after defensive players since people tried to get Reggie White when he was a free agent.
I agree with that. I do. I think that's the right name too. So let me go back to my question from 10 minutes ago. What's the asking price?
To start that off, just two comparison deals, but Khalil Mack, when he got traded, was 27 years old.
Yep.
He got traded from Oakland to Chicago. In that deal, the Bears gave up 2 first-round picks,
Which I think is
a
appropriate.
3rd-round pick, and a 6th-round pick for Khalil Mack, a 2nd, and a conditional 5th. At the time, Mack was 2 years younger than Myles Garrett currently is, and both will be looking for a new contract. So Mack at 27 went for
And had
2
Mack
firsts.
had a Defensive Player of the Year award by that point? He did, right? Was he?
I
coming-
can double check when I have a third hand to
Okay.
type and look it up.
Okay.
I only have 2 hands. But 27-year-old, needing a new contract, was traded for 2 firsts, a 3rd, and a 6th. Myles, 29, potentially coming off 2 DPOYs. So what do you think? Is that the starting point for any negotiation?
I think it has to include at least 2
At
number
least 2,
ones.
yeah.
And that's
I don't
that
think
is
you're
the
getting.
starting
I don't think you're getting 3
I don't either.
because he's not a quarterback.
Nope.
But I think.
And the
2
last
is
team to give 3 draft picks for a player.
And by the way,
He did have the DPOY, by the way. You're right.
I thought he
Khalil
was coming
did.
off
Correct.
of or the year before.
It was 2016. He got traded 17, so you're right. Jason, continue.
you don't have to send him to the Lions or the Chiefs.
No, you
You
don't.
can send him to a team. It doesn't have to be the 29th pick in the first. You could send. There's plenty of teams out there that would line up that would take Myles Garrett.
Does he have-
that would
does
hand
he
over
have a
their
no
first.
trade?
No, not to my knowledge.
I don't think he does either. So, I mean, you could conceivably end up making his life even more miserable. Not that you'd want to do that, but if it's the best deal for the Browns,
I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna get 3.
you could send him to a bad team to get a really good pick in this draft.
Give me. I'm gonna tell you why we're gonna get 3 first-round draft picks. Because I'm gonna trade him to the Cowboys. And Jerry Jones is getting up there. He's getting older. They had a terrible season last year. Dak Prescott looked like he was confused. He's hurt again. You got CeeDee Lamb locked up. Can you imagine? He's from Texas. He's there. Can you imagine what the news conference will be when you announce Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons? You don't even got to be that doggone good on defense. All you got or offense. All you got to do is put them two dudes out there and say block them. Now, look, day picks is going to be less. I want 3 of them because the Cowboys will probably be good next year. And I hope the Eagles win a championship because it's right in the division of what Jerry Jones is going to see. How do you like that, Jerry? The Commanders are balling, the Eagles are balling, and you still suck. Can you imagine? I'm going to get 3 first-round picks for Myles Garrett. He's going to go to Texas. He'll be in the NFC. We ain't got to worry about seeing him. But under no circumstances is he going to the Texans with the Chiefs.
Yeah, don't make the Texans even
none
better.
of those guys. I'm not trying to see him. He has to go to the NFC, period, point blank.
What did Von Miller get?
When he was traded from Denver to the Rams, was that the first time he was traded?
I believe so. And I'm just trying to figure.
Well, you're not going to like this. Diana actually just tweeted this.
Rossini?
Diana Rossini. One NFL GM on what a trade for Myles Garrett could look like. Quote, probably a 1+. Can't wait for the it will be 3 1s crowd. Not happening. 1 and a 2.
Are they watching our show?
Yeah, right. 1 and a 2, 1 and 2 3s. Throw a player in there. I still think you get 2
I
1s
think you
for
can
him.
get 2
Yeah.
1s, but
Stop
I don't know.
playing.
3 1s. It would have to be somebody.
Hey.
Look, what is something worth? Whatever someone
Whatever
will pay
one-
for.
willing to
one
pay
will
for.
And
for
I
it.
like
Yeah.
I like your logic because if there is going to be a guy that would say, "Screw it, I'll be dead in 3 years,"
It might be Jerry.
it might be Jerry Jones.
That is, Jerry Jones made a splash with Terrell Owens. Jerry Jones went and got Prime, Dion. Jerry Jones dealt with Michael Irvin. Jerry Jones has a penchant for the flair. He does what he does.
That's a fact.
And when you get a guy who's homegrown, that's from there, and you want to win a championship as bad as they do, go ahead. Give me them 3. That we gave up 3 runs for Deshaun Watson. It's funny how it works because all you got to do is say, look, I'm sure there's somebody in your division that would like to give up a couple of 1s for us, Jerry. You'll never win out here.
The one thing I wouldn't do if I was making a trade discussion is mention that we gave up 3s for Deshaun Watson. Because whoever you're making that argument with will say, "Yeah, and how'd that work out for your organization?"
That's an internal memo. That's an internal memo. We said this is our thought. We got sucker for 3 1s.
So now we gotta find a sucker.
I'm sure we can find another one out there.
I
man.
do think realistically 2 1s can happen.
I
And the
do too.
reason is he plays the second most important position in the NFL. Most GMs will tell you when you're building your team, you build it with the quarterback, and number 2, you find a guy that can wreck the quarterback. And he is as good as anyone at that spot. They're commodities, and you got to give up something to get one.
And Jason, look at this. We always talk about this all the time. He is the one player actually on the market that some people could talk themselves into. They say we are 1 player away.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's all kind of dummies out there. We know that there ain't 5 or 6 teams that's 1 player away.
Right.
But you could talk yourself into 1 player away, especially if you don't have much cap space, especially if you don't have many assets in the draft and you're drafted at the late end of the first round or maybe the second round. He's a guy that you could get excited about and watch how this explode. Here's how it's going to work. Jason, he already mad right now. There's people texting him trying to get a quote on Myles Garrett. Jay, get ready to be doing this all evening on WKYC till the draft starts.
Right.
People around the league are going to be a buzz because players like this, see what you did, Luka? See what you did? See what you did? They trade Luka Doncic. We was going to talk about that, and all of a sudden, Myles Garrett. Here we go. This is what it is.
Another big trade talk.
Another big one.
Okay, I'll just start throwing names out. If you were to do it for a player and a pick, what about Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals, who's got an issue coming up with his contract, and maybe a pick for Myles Garrett straight up?
No.
No, he's for the Bengals.
I want the picks, not to draft the players. I want the picks for trade capital to move around the
For
board
next year,
for
really.
next year.
Yeah.
Because again, I told you I'm going to keep saying this until somebody punches me. They care about 2027, guys. They care about the dome. They care about selling tickets to this dome and selling interest in this dome and getting this thing right in time to start selling PSAs in 2027 and 2028 leading into 2029. That's their focus.
Wait till Clevelanders see the price of those PSAs.
And it sucks
Wait-
because
just wait
I know.
until they see it. You
Yep.
might have a situation where you get a nice shiny dome and you have a whole lot of empty seats.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an example of where that's happened, look no further than Yankee Stadium. And by the way, Yankee Stadium, when they made that calculation, they said, we have at our disposal 15 million people that live within an hour of Yankee Stadium. Many of them work on Wall Street. Most of them have huge piles of money. They will come if we build it. Watch a Yankees game in July.
Yeah.
And this is a team that's been relevant.
Yeah.
And their all their good seats behind home plate are empty.
Yep.
And wait, I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
because I've already heard rumors about what it's going to cost.
Go look at Buffalo.
Wait until you see what the cost of going to a Browns game is going to be when they move this thing.
Von Miller got traded for a second and a third round pick, by the way, but he was at the end of a year in his
He had 1 year left, right?
But, yeah. Let me do a read. I'll send it right back to you guys. We can continue this conversation. But FanDuel is back as the official sportsbook partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And Super Bowl 59 is right around the corner. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether you're predicting the first touchdown, who will take home the MVP trophy, or the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to place your bets and feel the thrill of every moment. With live betting all game line, you can jump into the action, adjust your bets, and ride the wave of excitement from kickoff to the final whistle. Plus, to make the Super Bowl even sweeter, new customers can score $200 when you make your first bet. Just place a $5 bet, and if you win, you get $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and bet with FanDuel, an official partner of Super Bowl 59. Guys, on the Myles Garrett thing, I want to mention something that we kind of touched on, but I want to bring it back up. Steve, take tagboard full. In his exact statement, Myles Garrett said, quote, "The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton." You mentioned earlier, but that was the exact wording Andrew Berea used at his end-of-season press conference when asked about Myles Garrett. Is it any kind of extra meaning, you guys think, or anything deeper than surface level to use those exact same words?
I think
He's talking directly to AB.
I agree.
Yeah.
He used the exact phrase.
Yeah, there's intent behind that. And I mean, listen, I don't think AB's saying that is why he requested the trade. It's much deeper than that. But to use that exact verbiage, to use that exact language and throw it right back at him, yes, that there's intent behind that.
Man, I've been telling people, it's hard when you say this to some people ain't trying to win. And you'd be like, what do you mean they're not trying to win? No, there's like maybe 5 teams every year that are going for it, like really going for it. Not trying to talk about the dome, not trying to sell tickets or make the playoffs. There's 5 teams that are really, really, really trying to go for it. And the sentiment when he was talking about is it ain't about to go from Cleveland to Cleveland and Canton. That's skipping your whole career, man. You don't play these types of games and put your body on the line. And I think that was one of the major components that he started to look at. When you are a freak athlete and a freak of nature like Myles Garrett, you've seen your body never betrays you. But year after year, he had the car accident. He had the situation with his foot. We thought he may shut it down at some point during the season because of his foot or ankle, whatever the case may be. And so when you start to see your mortality as an athlete and you start to see those years pass and you people say, man, I remember when you came into the league, and you're like, wow, that was a long time ago. And you look around and you're pushing 30. You start to look around and he's looking at Nick Chubb like, wow, that ain't the Nick Chubb I knew. And you start to think to yourself, I got to be about something. I want to win. This ain't about next year or the year after that. This is about winning at the highest level. Do you see how they clown Charles Barkley? Do you see how we treat people? This the first thing we do to disqualify athletes. He was a great guy, put up stats, Hall of Famer. He was never a winner at the highest level. We hold that against people. So I can't get mad at the brother because he's just telling us what we always tell them. We treat people who are winners and win the championships up here. It's the reason why, even though Peyton Manning and Drew Brees are very good quarterbacks that won Super Bowls, the first thing they get disqualified is because, hey, you were great, but you only won one. Can you imagine what you say to a guy that didn't win any?
Well, you're Joe Thomas.
Yeah, you're Joe Thomas. And you ask Joe Thomas, what do you want, the jacket or the wins? And Joe Thomas says, man, look, I love the gold jacket. But that ring is all about team sports. It's what we play from the beginning of time. That's what we do it for, is that. And that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. I mean, we haven't gotten around to this part of it yet, but I don't blame Myles Garrett at all. I'm really surprised, Jay. I'm trying to think of another athlete that is so publicly asked for a trade.
Oh, Kobe.
Oh, you're right.
Kobe went on Stephen A's show and said, "I will never play another game in a Lakers uniform."
You're right.
Yeah.
And that turned out okay. So
yeah, it did. Can you remember another guy though that has written a letter basically saying, "Get me the hell out of here"?
Carmelo was kind of vocal in Denver, but
Carmelo was vocal. I don't remember to what extent.
And I think at that point too, Carmelo wasn't.
He Myles Garrett.
He wasn't where Carmelo. Now Kobe is a great comparison. I'd forgotten all about what Kobe did.
Yeah.
Kobe basically set himself on fire.
Yeah, that was amazing.
It was,
and he stayed.
And he stayed. They worked it out.
T.O. when he played for the Ravens for one day.
Yeah, but that was so. I mean, he wasn't T.O.
Wait, where was T.O. doing push-ups in his driveway?
That was Philly.
Dallas.
That was Philly.
No, that was Philly.
Yeah, that was Philly.
Yeah,
Philly.
Was that
that's
a
my
trade?
quarterback. That was Dallas.
Was that a trade? I don't remember. I just remember him shirtless doing push-ups or
I think
sit-ups.
it was
in
a
his driveway.
holdout.
I think they sent him home.
I think it was a holdout.
All right.
But this is big. Okay, not unprecedented, but rare.
Yeah, rare.
And
That's fair.
I think I was texting with Bernie just to get his thoughts, and the first word that he said was "wow." I think initially this is one of those things, and this happens very rarely, where when you first hear it, it takes you aback and you need a standing 8 count, and then once you get your wits, you're like, well, of course he asked for a trade.
That's why. So if you notice 2 years ago, right? And you knowing this, and you come on it, that's why it was so devastating for me to see them losing these games. Like, when you say, like, you're just hoping, like, you don't want to be 3. When the Deshaun Watson stuff happened, I'm like, okay, listen, he may not be good. We need to at least give me 7 wins. You can stomach a 7, because you can sell, hey, we ain't that far away, we get a quarterback. But when you bottom out at 13, you just knew, like, people think that we're Duke of D-jerks, right? And this is our court of gestures, and we just say stuff. Remember, we were sitting here talking about tearing it down to the studs, and we was like, oh no, this ain't no regular, let's just add 2 or 3 pieces in there. You got some pieces that you're gonna have to actually get to, like, put in place, because you're gonna lose some guys. And now the trickle down theory is here. This is the Reaganomics of football. Now, what does Joe Bitonio say?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised.
What is
Any of the veterans that are
and
perennial Pro Bowlers.
And at that point, what are you doing over his corner then? Why is Denzel Ward over there? Like, if Myles Garrett is gone, what are we doing with all these high-priced veterans? Because we pay the most in money, Jason.
Well, I would not move Denzel. I keep Denzel right where he is. He's still
Denzel
young.
may not want to leave. Denzel is home.
Yeah, I would not entertain that at all. The Myles thing you have to look at. You have to. I wrote about it weeks ago. I thought that they should look at trading him, exploring trading him, because you have got to fix quarterback. Period. Full stop. Whatever it takes.
Yes.
You haven't won anything with Myles, as great as he is. You haven't won shit with him. You
right.
finished ahead of third once. You finished above third place in your division one time.
You've won
with
one
him.
playoff game.
Yeah. So as great as he is, I'm sorry he's not a quarterback. You have got to fix that at any cost, whatever it takes. Joel may retire. Joel may say, "Screw this, man. I'm done. That's enough." He may have done that anyway, even before this Myles thing. He may have had enough.
Mike, you just got my ear and said you have some cap implications. What will this do to the cap?
So Jason from Over the Cap, not our Jason Lloyd, but Jason from Over the Cap.
Really good,
who-
really good.
Really good, really smart. Just tweeted this out so you can take it full here. And Jason said, quote, "The Garrett trade would not be very easy for the Browns to work with on their salary cap. He has been restructured every year, which means over $36 million in cap charges if traded. He has a bonus due in March as well." So we're going to end up doing the rock bottom conversation at some point, but this certainly does not help the Browns' chances in any of those. $36 million in cap charges if he's traded, and he would not be on the roster.
Good God. I mean, that does go back to the Deshaun thing.
Yeah.
That goes back to the Deshaun thing. And that's why I can't.
I think all of it does, though.
But I can't entertain a conversation that says the Deshaun contract is no big deal against the cap. I know you guys had on that guy.
Yeah, no, that's garbage.
But
it's nonsense. I'm sorry.
But it's then just give everybody $300 million contracts, because it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Like, of course it matters. Of course there's collateral damage to it at some point.
Well,
And
one of the
this is
things we
part of
talked
it.
about was the gymnastics that you can do to get out of it was to kick Rhodes
kicking
down.
the can down the road.
Okay, so now you're in a situation where your best player wants a trade, and because of the money pushed down the road, make that trade. It is going to hit you in the heart.
Well, I get the concept of the cap keeps going up and the dollar value is going to keep going down, so you get better value. Makes perfect sense.
Sure.
Eventually, you have to bend over and pick up the can.
Yeah.
And that's what I think all of this is coming to a head. And again, maybe they talk him out of it. Maybe they just give him another enormous contract, make him the highest paid defensive player in the history of the game, give him a quarterback-like contract, and they prolong this and they get him back into the boat. I mean, David Njoku asked for a trade, and Kevin Stefanski talked him back into the boat. Maybe but to go this public about it and to be this intent on it, given what I know where he was 2 years ago, given what he said toward the end of the season, I think they're going to have a hard time getting him back in the boat, but you don't have to trade him. We had that conversation about the Cavs over the summer. You don't necessarily have to trade these guys.
You know, it's tough because
Hey, G, hold on. Sorry, real quick. More breaking news or update on this. But Albert Breer just tweeted, Myles Garrett made his trade request public today, but the Browns' position on Garrett has not changed. Per sources, the team has no plans to deal him.
Well, we
And
could have,
they
we
said, I
could
was
have an
just going to
impasse.
say they did the same thing with Baker. Because when Deshaun told them no and Baker came out and said he wanted traded, the team stance was, well, sorry, you're under contract. We're not trading you.
Right.
And maybe I don't know. Let's wait and see where this
They
goes.
ended up having to trade him.
drive that price up, drive it up. Listen, because now that's a signal of, oh no, you're gonna have to come higher. Don't come at all.
There are probably 25 to 30 front offices right now that are having this conversation.
Yeah.
Do we want in on this?
Yeah, like right
Do
now.
we want in on the Myles Garrett sweepstake?
It's like the stock market is crashing and you're in the financial institutions. They waking you up at 3 a.m. Yeah, get John over here. It's 3 a.m. I say get John over here.
Yeah, this DEFCON 10.
Put the bat signal out. I just see this is the fascinating part about it is when you watch and you're gonna watch around the league, you're gonna get a lot of people that inquire about it. And you're going to figure out, okay, well, this guy wants to trade, this guy wants to trade, and they can do process of elimination based on who gives them the best offer. The interesting part to me is, do you still draft a quarterback? Because I'm just looking at it from this perspective. If you don't sell, how can you sell your fan base that you just lost your like generational player, and then you have no quarterback and you don't draft one?
Yeah.
I mean, what are people gonna watch? What are we? So we come into the games to watch Jerry Jeudy and Kirk Cousins,
Especially when you're trying to build a brand new $2 billion stadium.
How you gotta have
And jack
something.
up prices to the point where people will have sticker
Arch
shock.
Manning. Jason said it a million times. It's the Arch Manning plan.
I mean, there's no guarantee he comes out in 26, especially with NIL money. But it was just an example of if he does come out, I think Jimmy Haslam would be slobbering at the mouth to get.
Did you see the video of Peyton's son throwing balls to
Yeah, I did.
NFL?
Marshall.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
and let's be clear.
Unfortunately, the stadium won't be built in 2040 when he's eligible to be
Yeah.
drafted.
Here's the big elephant in the room, though. You act like the Mannings don't move people from bad organizations.
Oh, listen.
What are you talking
Listen,
about?
if it came down to the Browns had the number one pick
They're not letting him go.
and Arch was coming out in the draft.
Come on, stop. You talking about Shador?
I was going to say,
you talking about Shador?
it's the
No,
Deion
and,
situation.
Like what?
and by the way, Peyton and Jimmy Haslam are buddies.
Nah, that's not going
But
down.
I'll guarantee you, they're not going to let Arch come to this.
No, it's not. Oh, and by the way, even if you had 4 first-round picks, if Arch Manning is the second coming of Peyton Manning, whoever has the number 1 draft pick is
ain't
not trading it. You can have 10 first-round picks. So we can ante up all the picks you want. Sorry, Cleveland. We're going to take the generational guy that everybody would.
Watch the race of teams that tank this year thinking that he will come out.
And he may not.
He might
very
not. He might stay.
But my larger point
Peyton
is,
stayed.
Again, all of this is risk. Freely admit, it's all risk. It's calculated risk. But the quarterback class of next year looks significantly better at this point than the quarterback class this year. So even if it's not Arch, even if it's not the number 1 guy, there still should be a class next year of multiple options.
More options, yeah.
Of more options and more bites at the apple than what you've got now.
And to Jay's point on NIL, according to all reports, Arch Manning just signed a $6 million NIL deal with Red Bull. So money is not an issue.
There
for
is
Arch
no
Manning.
And will never be an issue for
It never
Arch
was.
Manning.
It never
Well,
was.
I'm
to
just
begin
saying,
with.
even in his own right,
It wasn't for Eli when they masterminded the,
Chargers to
San
Giants.
Diego, don't take us.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing for him.
Hey, man, Arch Manning ain't signing up for Pell Grant, man.
No.
And by the way, that's already frozen, so don't worry about that.